Hi everybody, I'm continuing my series on the number cards in the tarot. This time we're looking at swords. I've got a level with you. I don't like this suit very much. There's a lot of cards here which represent very difficult life lessons, let's just put it that way. But I'm going to go through the meanings in the event that you draw one of these cards in a spread. So the first card, of course, is the Ace of Swords. And if you draw this card, it's an indication that you've got a lot of mental clarity. The swords represent the power of the intellect. So you have that clarity, you are working at 100% in terms of your mental performance, and you're mentally very sharp, and that's going to be very important for you to have that quality as you go into the future challenges that await you. Right, next up in the suit of swords, we have the Two of Swords. So in this card, it can mean a few things, but first of all, it can mean feeling like you're at an impasse. You need to make a decision. You've got two choices or ideas of moving forward that are before you, but it's very difficult to choose between one or the other for some reason. Perhaps it's hard to see the right way forward, in which case you need to rely on your intuition, as symbolized by the moon and the ocean in this card. Just go with what feels right. If you can't make the decision any other way, this could also be a sign that you're in denial because of the X sign that the figure is making with their arms. So those are possible meanings of the Two of Swords if you draw it and there's some difficult decision that you're trying to make. Okay, next up in the swords we have the Three. This is not very nice, this one. This is the card of heartbreak. It's a card where you feel very unhappy with the way that you've been treated or with some outcome in your life. You feel heartbroken or you feel let down in a big way, in some way. There's three swords piercing the heart. So it's not great. It could be in a romantic sense. It could just be some other big failure in life that you're sad about. But the rain will pass, just like the rain in this card will pass. So that's one thing to take out of this card if you draw it at a difficult time in your life. Next in the swords, we have the Four of Swords. This is a card where perhaps you have been through a very trying time, a very difficult, painful time. Now is the chance for you to rest and recover and heal from that. This figure looks like they could be some kind of knight or something. But whatever the case, they're in a place of rest. There's no swords piercing them in this. There is just the motif of a sword and nothing hanging over them or threatening them. So take this opportunity to rest if you feel like you have been having a hard time recently. That's what it means to draw this card. Okay, next up, in the suit of swords, we have the Five. In this card, you've got a bunch of figures who are walking away from a conflict. This is a card which comes up when there's just been some kind of conflict that you've been involved in. Perhaps you are the figure in the foreground here, but the other figures are not happy. That's clear. So you may have had a victory and claimed the other weapons of your opponents as your prize, but there's still a lot of resentment and bad blood that has come as a result of this conflict. It's created a new atmosphere, which is not a pleasant atmosphere, as symbolized by the storm clouds in the background. So that is the meaning of this card. Okay, next up in the suit of swords, we have the Six of Swords. So this card is reminiscent of the ferryman in Greek mythology, Charon, who ferries people across the river Styx to the underworld. This is a person who has gone through a kind of a death-like experience, some kind of harrowing life event, and it's time for them to move on and leave the past behind them, and leave what is dead behind them, and go on to better shores. So this card is telling you that if you do have negative things that you're still hanging on to, it's time to leave them behind and go on to better things. Okay, next up in the swords, we have the Seven of Swords. This shows a figure who has stolen a whole bunch of swords from the camp that they were spending time at. They're repaying the hospitality of the people that they were staying with by taking from them. This is a card of deceit. It's a card of a traitor in your midst, somebody who you've welcomed into your life who doesn't have good intentions and is working against you behind your back. Or perhaps you are the figure who is engaging in the betrayal. And this card's calling you out on it, but if that's not you, be careful, because there's somebody in your life who is not trustworthy, and they may be working against you in secret. Of the Eight of Swords. Like the Two of Swords, this figure is blindfolded, they're also bound, and they're surrounded by swords. The floor underneath them is very wet, there's a danger of slipping and falling, and there's an imposing castle in the background. So there's a lot working against this figure, but first and foremost, the most immediate threat is the swords that they're surrounded with. If they move the wrong way, they could easily cut themselves. The swords here represent attitudes that we have. You might say it's like negative self-talk. We need to move carefully because our thoughts might be deceiving us in that sense. If we can remove the blindfold, if we can see our thoughts for the self-deceit that they are, then maybe we can move past those negative thought patterns. Right, up next we've got the Nine of Swords. This card is really, there's no silver lining to it really. You're waking up from a nightmare, you're very distressed, there's 9 swords hanging over you. This is a person who's in a real bad place, going through some really difficult times in their life. Perhaps it's because of something genuine. Perhaps it's just something that's in your head. If it is something that's in your head, you can kind of wake up from the nightmare, so to speak. But if it's a more difficult life situation, this is just one of those trials that we all go through from time to time, which needs to be endured, I suppose, until it's over. Okay. Finally, we arrive at the Ten of Swords. And believe me, it doesn't get that much better. Although it kind of does. I'll explain why. So this figure, they're shot all the way through with swords. They're completely dead. They are just completely defeated. They've been completely owned. And they're dead. But the good thing about this card is that a time of extreme difficulty is now at an end. So, it's over. Whatever terrible situation you were in, it's over now, and there is the sun rising on the horizon. So whatever comes next, it'll be better than what you've just experienced. The sign of benediction on the hand also indicates that you'll be able to overcome the suffering because it's finally ended. And that's it. That's the suit of swords. Good riddance. If you're enjoying this content, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.